what I really started to see was that there were predictable health outcomes by personality type,
Mhm.
that wiring of the mind is absolutely informing the body. And I could see, wow, these personality types, it's more than just like, what Disney princess am I?
Right,
What kind of dog am I? These are really deep. These go all the way to the bone, and we can't see that we've got a filter going on about what we believe and what
right.
we perceive, but you absolutely see it play out in the health.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings, salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast. It's always a pleasure to share this space with you, and I truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. Our mission is to help you live your best audacious life ever by exploring insights and conversations that inspire personal growth and transformation. Now, think of personality types like the blueprint of a house. Just as blueprints dictate the structure and the flow of the home, our personality types can shape our physical and emotional well-being. Understanding this blueprint allows us to make whatever necessary renovations for a healthier life. Today, we're joined by Candace Thomas. She's an acupuncturist, an anagram teacher based out of Tucson, Arizona. With over 13 years of experience, she blends acupuncture, the anagram, and quantum hypnosis to offer transformative healing to her clients. Candace is also the author of Your Vitality, Personality, which explores the connection between personality types and health. Candace's expertise is crucial to our episode as she delves into how understanding your personality type can lead to better health outcomes. Her holistic approach provides valuable insights into personal growth and healing. So now that we've got you all set, let's turn to our conversation with Candace. Enjoy. Hey, Candace, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you making the time to do this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's great. As I say, a big fan of podcasting, big fan of the opportunity to share and engage with individuals and conversations that can help others get to a better sort of place in life, if you will, and that audacious life that we talk about here.
Yes.
So a really big part of that is really being able to have a clear understanding of who you are, and that'll help you sort of frame where you fit in the world once you have that understanding. And so I certainly, I think the timing of a conversation like this is good, and bringing you in to have this conversation because you've done a lot of work around sort of personality and personal health, and you sort of have a holistic approach to the work that you do, and you've got a book called Your Vitality, Personality. So this is something you invested a lot of time, energy into, and so maybe as a starting point, if I could ask you to introduce yourself to our audience and kind of give our listeners an idea of the work you do and what's brought you up until this point.
Okay, great. My name's Candace Thomas. I am an acupuncturist in Tucson, Arizona, but I do a lot more than just acupuncture. I'm also a teacher of the Enneagram, which is a very established personality typing system. And I also do quantum hypnosis. And I think of those as the body, mind, and spirit aspects of treatment. And so I try to sort of blend all of this for the patient to get big transformational healing. And when I opened my doors as an acupuncturist, I asked all of my patients to take the personality quiz.
Yeah.
So I've now been observing health patterns and really life patterns by personality type for over 13 years now. And what I really started to see was that there were predictable health outcomes by personality type,
Mhm.
that wiring of the mind is absolutely informing the body. And I could see, wow, these personality types, it's more than just like, what Disney princess am I?
Right.
What kind of dog am I? These are really deep. These go all the way to the bone, and we can't see that we've got a filter going on about what we believe and what
Right.
we perceive, but you absolutely see it play out in the health. And also, I saw that the ones who get better are the ones who are striving for self awareness and to begin doing things differently. And that most people are very resistant to change, very resistant to doing something new and different. And those health outcomes continue to deteriorate over time. So I felt very motivated to get this information
Right.
out there to help people see that you are locked in a pattern that you may not see, but it's not taking you anywhere fun. And if you'd like to do it somewhere some differently, you're going to need some new information and some new thought patterns. So that is what I'm trying to get out there and teach.
So interesting. So thank you for that. So are you suggesting then that once you've established or identified so our personality types that we can change that, or are we law, or is it fixed?
Well, the type itself, I believe, is fixed, but
Hmm.
there's a real spectrum within the personality type of self sabotage to self actualization, let's say.
Okay.
There is a low side and a high side to each of the personality types. The bad news is the low side is the default. That
Okay.
is our automatic, is the ego aspect of the personality type. And that is ultimately what I saw is that personality types contain our ego. And
Hmm.
so there are kind of 9 different ego templates
Gotcha.
out there. And so when we are on default, we're not aware of this, we're not watching for it, then we're stuck in the low side of the type. As you become self aware and you realize, oh, I should be watching for this, I should be asking myself, is this belief true? Is this
Right.
belief serving me? Maybe there's a different way to do it. That opens you up. And I would say, really, it's your ability to have self love and your ability to have joy that elevates you up into the high side of the personality type, which is a much more advanced kind of human who is here to bring positive
Mm.
aspects to life. And so that's really who you came here to be. That's who you
Right.
really want to be. And so you need to get some mastery over that ego side so that you can step into your full power as a really magnificent human being.
I'd love to talk about the low side and the high side. I think, and I want to spend some time on this only because I think that is key for a lot of people, right? And so we know that who we are is who we are, and that's fixed, right? But that
Right.
doesn't mean that, and again, that spectrum that you refer to, it doesn't mean that we're locked into this and that's all that it will ever be. That's that self-defeating behavior or thoughts that people will sometimes demonstrate. Well, this is who I am, and that's it. And
That's right.
but there is the low and high, as you pointed out.
There's the low and high. And as you continue to work on yourself, to heal your wounds, to engage with self love, you start really expanding well beyond your personality type. And you start looking more universal. So it's interesting. The more we strongly, intensively identify with the personality type,
Yes.
more locked in we are to a very slim worldview. The
Right.
more we're willing to say, well, I might be wired to do it this way, but that doesn't mean I have to do it this way. And let me learn from other people's styles and let me see what would best be appropriate in this situation. And gives you a lot more adaptability. You're much more resilient and fluid as life throws you what it's going to throw you.
Yeah, as you talk about locked in, what came to mind, and thought came to mind about how sometimes we may have a belief about something or a viewpoint, and that's it. And
That's
there's
it.
nothing that you can say to suggest otherwise. But as you just pointed out, it's slims that view of the world that we have when we stay that
Yeah.
locked in. And I would like to submit that the more open we are and less locked in that we are, the greater our likelihood of us being to have a wider view of the world as a whole. And once you can
Absolutely.
do that, that's where the learnings come in, the lessons of life come in, the happier I would say also is a part of that as well
That's what
too.
I was going to say. That's where the peace comes in. When
Mm,
you start to realize that it's okay that other people are different than me, and maybe there's something I can learn. I'm not right and everybody else is wrong. Maybe there are there are 9 personality types, maybe there's 9 ways to look at it,
Right.
and the less attached you are to being right and being sure that your way is the only way, the less expectations you have of other people, and so you're more willing to let them just be who they are. You're
Got
less
you.
invested in changing them or getting them to agree with you, and this brings a lot of peace. The more you can let go of your attachments and expectations of other
Yep.
people, the more peace and happiness you feel, which
Got
turns
you.
into your wellness.
Got you. I'm curious in terms of just so your personal journey to land where you're at now. Does that have an influence in your work and your approach to it?
Well, it did. It was the long way, I would say.
Isn't it always a long way?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not that I had a particularly troubled or painful childhood as much as I was very different than everybody else. And
Got
I
you.
I experienced a lot of pressure to conform
Hmm.
and sort of like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you like everybody else in our family? And so you're kind of growing up being told like, wow, I'm there's something wrong with me and I don't belong and I don't fit in. And then meanwhile, I have all of beliefs about who's doing it wrong to me, right? My
Yep.
parents or my family or
Yep.
whatever. So it was more an experience of loneliness and like, where are my people? Who are my people? Where do I
Mm.
belong? Where do I fit in? And that started an early interest, even as a young person, in personality types, in archetypes, in psychology, just trying to understand myself and my world. Ultimately, what I learned is that my personality type is a rebellious rule breaker type. We are here to shake
That's
up
why
the
you're by yourself,
paradigm.
right?
We're not here to
Yeah.
conform.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
right. So it is a little bit lonely to be
Yes.
that guy, right? Who
Right.
never
Right.
seems to be on board with what everybody else is doing. That's we're the change bringers. We
Yes.
are the type sevens are looking at it differently and saying, why do you have to do it like you always did it? Why wouldn't you do it in this new exciting way? And so we're kind of trying to bring growth and expansion
Mm.
and evolution.
Right. I think of those individuals as the questioners who's always questioning, right?
Yes. I had a so type 7, like, they're a rule breaker, they're
Yep.
rebellious, they don't really care what other people's expectations are. When I was in acupuncture school, I had a supervisor who was a type 6, who's the complete opposite of a 7. The 6 is very rule following, very dutiful, very responsible, and I remember she would always say, "Rules are made to be." And I burst out laughing. I'm like, "That's not how I heard it. Isn't it rules are made to be broken? What? Followed." You know?
I've always said that, when it comes to rules, like, uh, I want to know exactly what they are so I can know how far I can bend them, right? Like,
Right. So I can find the loopholes. Yeah.
and then drive a Mack truck right through that loophole, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. I'm curious, when did you make the connection to overall health and personality? Because that's something, and I will openly admit that's not something I would naturally connect to. And so when I first read about it, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. When did you kind of make
Yeah.
that connection?
Well, it became very obvious in the work itself. At the same time, I was kind of a real curious student, the science of happiness,
Hmm.
and health patterns. Dr. Joe Dispenza does a lot of work on what your mind is doing and how it affects your health. So basically, the personality types is the hardwiring of your mind. All that chatter that you hear all day, every day is your ego talking to you in your mind.
Mm.
And so basically, we're wired to believe certain things that lead us to make certain choices, that lead us to have
Yes.
certain attitudes. And this turns into our emotional life, basically, right? What we think about turns into how we feel, and how
Yes.
we feel turns into our health. So
Yes.
that's actually a pretty straightforward matter.
Got you. Well, no, it makes sense. And as you say, it makes sense. And I think, um, as sort of, especially the last several years, I would think that conversation to explain to people is a bit easier to have. Whereas
It
once
is.
upon a
It's
time, we're like, what are you talking about? Oh, it was
100%. People,
right.
yeah, I seem to be less woo woo or out there than I used to be, according to other people, right? Now they get it.
Understands it. No, for sure. You said there's nine. Can let's talk about them. I know you saw you described me in number seven, right? We're the rule breaker. We're shutting things down and doing our own thing. And so we
Uh-huh.
heard that. Number
Yeah.
six, they like to follow the rules. Yeah, I mean, wherever you think. So let's want to make sure that. So that's you have names to them, right? Like the
I
seven is the
do.
alarmist, the guardian. That's the two sides of them.
No, that's the six, is the guardian or the
Got you.
alarmist.
Got
Yeah,
you.
very integrity oriented. But so I'll back up to say I've assigned two names as examples for each type to show you the high side and low side
Got you.
aspects.
Got
So
you.
one name you're really going to like being called, the other name you're going to be really offended to be called
I'm
that.
not me. That's not me. How dare you call me that?
That's right. But I'm not that, you know. So most people don't like to identify with that. I call it the primal persona versus the vitality personality. But I'll give you both
Oh,
names, and people,
sure.
you know, will maybe secretly recognize
Sure.
themselves,
Start
right?
wherever you want. How about that? I'll let you guide this.
So type one is called the architect or judge.
Okay.
So this is a right and wrong, good and bad, very oriented towards organizing by assigning labels to
Okay.
everything, trying to make a chaotic world tidy. But instead of it just being order, it turns into judgment, right? It's this part goes here and this part goes here, but this is the good part and this is the bad part, right? And so we start kind of dividing things up and expressing judgment. The type two,
If I could, sorry. And so which one is the primal versus the vitality personality?
so the judge is the primal persona. The architect is the vitality personality. And the reason
Mm,
I name it the architect is because the type one has an unusual mind. They have an extremely clear mind
mhm.
and they are able to create order out of chaos. That's their natural desire, is
Right.
to organize, to
Yep.
structure.
Yep.
And so they tend to naturally create systems that the rest of us all function inside of, right? So
Yes.
our
Right.
legal system is a type one system, you know, our medical system is a type one system. I
Sure.
would say Christianity is a type one system, where
Hmm.
it's trying to create a system for you to have your best life in. But of
Right.
course, when we've got the judge in there, it's not your best life, it's divided. So it's
Right.
like that once you get into your heart, once you're able to be more compassionate, accepting, you're able to create systems that are more fluid and adaptable and less rigid and requiring
Right.
everybody to be on their best behavior. You know, it allows you to be where
Right.
you're at. So it's a
And I
much
can
more
totally see the two sides. I mean, like, so going back to the architect, it's being done with the best of intentions to create order in
right.
chaos, as you said. And so, but if you go too far, you turn into the judge.
Basically, that could be said of all the types, that
Okay.
when we're in our ego, we're
Yeah.
totally in the mind and the heart is totally closed,
Got you.
right? So it's a totally a mental orientation without really feeling much, right?
Got you.
But then when we get into the heart, it actually activates what I call the higher mind, which is where you and your higher self meet. And now you are able to communicate from a much more exalted, higher understanding.
Yep. Got you. Got you. Okay. Okay. So what does type two look like?
Well, type two is a little different than really all the other types because their primal persona is only harmful to themselves, really.
Okay.
So the high side is called the altruist. They're very loving and giving people. However, the primal persona is called the victim. And
Mm,
they're called the victim not because they are throwing themselves a pity party all the time. It's more that in their desire to be of service, put themselves always last. And so
got you.
they really are never loving towards themselves. They might be very loving towards everybody else to the point of harming themselves. And it's very
Hmm.
common for twos to put themselves in a bad situation because they're trying to be good to other people.
Got you.
So that's usually when you're dealing with somebody else's primal persona, it's a problem for you, right? Boy, your
Mm,
anger management issue is my problem, right?
right.
But the type two people are happy to take advantage of that. They're, oh, you're offering to help me and you're willing to give me money or drive me
Yes,
to the
yes.
airport or,
Right.
sure, I'll take it.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
Never realizing that nobody's looking out for the two and nobody's offering. They're kind of assuming it's going to be reciprocated one day when it's my
Right.
turn and I'm in
Right.
need. You're going to be there for me. And that's a real sad wake up call, when
Gotcha.
they realize, oh, I've been knocking myself for everybody else, but
Mm.
everybody's a no-show for me. And it's because they are the one who created that dynamic of you can expect things of me, but I'll never expect things of you. And I'll sacrifice me for you. So it's
Could,
helping to have love for
right.
themselves so that they can actually say no sometimes when it doesn't work for them.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
To
So
serve it.
could we put the term people pleaser in there?
Absolutely, 100. But
Gotcha.
they're probably our biggest people pleaser.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What's type 3 look like?
So type 3 is called the luminary or the pretender.
Okay.
So we all know the luminaries, right? These are our politicians and our actors and our CEO. They're the leaders of our world, really,
Hmm. Hmm.
because they're driven for success. They're
Yes.
very ambitious. They want that win. So the difference between the luminary and the pretender is the authenticity piece.
Mm.
As is the am I presenting to you who I really am, warts and all, or have I put on a mask? Am I telling you that I'm successful? Am I telling you that I'm talented? Am I telling you that I have these beliefs that I think you want to hear? But I'm just doing all that because it's going to make me money or it's going to get me that promotion
Right.
or it's going to make me look like a big shot. And I'm really actually hiding my authenticity. And so that's why we call it the pretender is what I find is actually threes, for as much as they come across as sort of tough and it's just business, right? They actually were very sensitive children and they received early signaling that it's not cool to be vulnerable. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to, be upset. There was some kind of shaming that
Yep.
happens to the
Okay.
three at a young age who
Hmm.
says, wow, I it's not safe for me to just be myself. I'm being told the only way to get love and approval is if I change who I am. So they
Mm.
start kind of disconnecting from that inner guidance and start adopting a persona that looks good, that other people approve of. And that can take them very far away from who they really are. And the
Mm.
threes are sort of the classic midlife crisis, right?
Gotcha.
Where now they won the awards, they made the money, they got the status, believing they were going to be real happy and fulfilled when it all arrived. And no, it feels very empty and nobody really knows who I am. And it seems like it's hero to zero every day. I have to start over and
Right.
prove myself again. And I never feel really peaceful about myself. I've always got to keep going. And so it's a burnout, and eventually it's hard for threes to come clean about who
Hmm.
they really are after they've
Mm.
created decades of a persona, even in marriage, even with their kids. I mean,
Yeah.
it's threes take a long time to feel safe enough to let you see who they really are.
It's funny as you're talking. It's like I know someone like that. I know someone like you can literally point them out. So that's how real these are. And I'm sure listeners are also kind of identifying or relating. So I think especially this pretender one. I mean, yeah, I know a whole bunch of them. I mean, just they're all out there. But
Yeah.
type number 4. What do they look like?
Four is called the creative or
Uh-huh.
the diva.
Hmm.
So the fours are unusual. I call them the right brain in a left brain world. So
Okay.
they don't really totally fit into our Western model of productivity and action and deadlines. And they're totally in this nebulous world of feelings and memories and
Right.
longing and imagination. And it's kind of hard and painful for them to really live in this concrete world because they are highly sensitive beings. So they tend to retreat into the imagination
Hmm.
and they generally have a melancholy because from childhood, their parents have been saying to them, what's wrong with you? Why can't you get
Mm.
there on time? Why haven't you done your homework? Why did you fail that test?
Something's
Right?
wrong with you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something is wrong with you because you don't fit into our model of, how little children should behave. And that's very painful for them to constantly be told that there's something wrong with them, which they believe you, when you tell them that. So they start growing up feeling really sad, really
Sure.
misunderstood. I don't
Inadequate.
fit in. I don't,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So fours really struggle with self-esteem and with
Yeah.
wanting to be validated. So that
Mm,
diva piece is sort of it's the result of that dynamic where now I fuss over myself a lot, right? Now
right.
it's like, I, it's, fours are already sensitive. Then they've
Yes.
got all this negative talk piling on, and it really turns them into, I have extra needs. I have special things I need to do to take care of myself. I need my special silk pillow. I only eat this brand of whatever. It's like they start to get real finicky about
Yes.
what would make them happy,
Yes.
because they've got all these extra issues, which basically come from being told I'm bad and wrong on my life. And so other people are perceiving them as high maintenance and difficult and persnickety. But really, it's all that they're trying to find a way to feel okay. So
Mm,
when they leave all that behind, they can step fully into the creative, which is who they
yes.
came here to be. All that insight and sensitivity, they have so much more understanding about the human experience than the rest of us. Whereas
Right.
all the other types are sweeping most of their emotions under the rug, right? They're
Gotcha.
trying not to
Yep.
feel a lot of their feelings. The fours are all up in there. And
Yep.
so
Very
these are
true.
our poets and our
Yes.
actors,
Yes.
and they're writing our screenplays or the music. They're that ones who can really get evocative emotion out of us, and we need that. We really
Yes.
need that. So they're here for an
Yes.
important reason, to connect us to our humanity. So they have to get rid of all that negative self-talk first to be able to deliver that.
Yeah. I see them as the ones that really can usher in something beautiful from inside, and they can sort of shepherd that, if you will, which is a wonderful, wonderful place to be able to operate from. Number five, type five. What are
Yeah.
they all about?
Fives are called the sage or the miser.
Hmm.
These are deep introverts, deep thinkers, watchers, observers. They're quiet. And, we probably know that we would easily call this the nerdy type, right? For the most part,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
they're interested in deep research instead of basketball kind of people, right?
Okay.
So but they're called the miser in that primal persona because they don't feel safe with a lot of emotion,
Okay.
and they are just trying to understand the world intellectually, but they don't want any messiness. They're trying not to deal with the chaos. They're trying to understand their world through the mind. And fives often have a story of a volatile mother,
Okay.
of a person in their life who made it unsafe, or
Hmm.
that their
Hmm.
emotions were very big, and so they, in return, really pull into themselves, and
Got
they
you.
say, that's okay. I don't need love from you. I don't need care. You can keep that over there. I'm going to go in my room and shut the door. I describe them as the dragon in their lair. They have their favorite stuff, their creature comforts, and they lock in, and they don't really return your phone call. They don't
Right.
really take that email. They're just alone with themselves, and that feels safe, but it's very isolated. And for as much as they're trying to understand things with the mind, as we know, you actually have to experience things. You have to get in there, to really, you could read about love, but that's not the same thing as experiencing love, right? You really
Got
don't
you.
know anything until you've been through it. So it's trying to get the five to drop that intellectualism and lead with the heart, and actually allow themselves to have experiences, even if they are messy, because
Yes.
that's going to give you the real wisdom.
Well, and to drop into lectures that you pointed out, that's a big job because there's comfort in that for them. That's where they feel most comfortable. And you're saying, come out of my comfort zone? I'm not sure about that.
You're right. It's a tough sell to the five. You are quite right that fives are very slow to take this advice.
Yes.
But, there is a certain percentage of fives who do get to a point in their life where they're willing to admit to themselves,
Hmm.
I'm lonely. I have isolated myself too much. And now I don't have friends. I don't have connections. I don't
Yep.
really know how to relate to people. And so they kind of have to get themselves there before they're
Sure.
willing to start doing it
Yep.
differently.
Yep. No, makes sense. Totally makes sense. I know we touched a little bit on type six off the top near the beginning there. Let's dive in a bit deeper.
the guardian or the alarmist.
Hmm.
So these are very dutiful, concerned citizens. They really care about society and what's going on in the world. Um, However, their desire to be safe and stable degrades into everything is a threat to me, and so they're kind of constantly on the watch for what could go wrong with this scenario. And they really torture themselves with what I call the what ifs. Well,
Gotcha.
what if that were to happen? If I made this choice, then what if that happened? And what if that happened? And what, right? And so you're keeping yourself in fight or flight all day long, right?
Mm.
The alarm, and so they have highly reactive nervous systems where they freak out, right? They have panic
Yep.
attacks or Crohn's, or acid reflux, or if there's things as their emotions freak out, their health freaks out. So moving into the guardian really requires the sixes to develop a sense of discernment, is
Mm.
okay, I've got this news. So let me run it through my intuition and
Right.
feel into this. What is the best choice on how to handle this for myself? I actually have inner guidance that could stabilize me and root me and give me a sense of knowingness so that I can calmly respond to this situation instead of imagining worst case scenarios and being so upset that I'm not really being rational. So it, again, a tough sell to get a very logical, analytical mind like the type six to
Hmm.
start tuning into intuition. But that is what is needed to stabilize them so that they can become the true guardian who is protecting integrity and watching out for the safety and stability of us all, but with a calmness, a reasonableness, so
Mm.
that they can act appropriately.
I do like that, dialing into her intuition. And how often or how much missed opportunities are there because we don't, right? And that involves some trust of self, right? And trust in oneself. But yeah, I think intuition is a fabulous piece to fall back on.
That's very insightful of you. The theme for the type six is trust versus
Uh,
fear. So that
yeah.
is right at the heart of what they're trying to work on.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Our favorite type sevens are up next, right? We talked about they
Right,
like to break all the rules and bend all the bars and do their own thing.
right,
What can you
right.
tell us about them?
So sevens I call the uplifter or the hedonist.
Mm.
So sevens, I was very surprised to learn, are the only ones out of the nine types who hold their own happiness as their highest priority.
Hmm.
So all the other types are willing to sacrifice their happiness in favor of some other priority, some other value they hold higher than their own happiness. Sevens say, nope, I'm going to be happy. I might help you out, but I'm looking for the win win, right? Is there a way we can both get what we want here?
Yes.
So sevens are trying to find the fun, the happiness, the joy, the play, the awe, the magic. So they're very inspiring to other people because, as
Right.
I said, many people are wallowing in the misery they've created for themselves because they're not willing to put their happiness first, right? So
Mhm.
that's a real, that bright light that the sevens hold is a real shot in the arm for other people, which is why they're called the uplifter. The problem is that sevens are so sensitive about negativity and darkness and
Mhm.
heaviness, which is everywhere, right?
Sure. Sure.
That as soon as they get a hint of it, they're like, oh no, no, I can't handle that. I got to get out of here. Right. So
Right.
so sevens become kind of escape artists. And so that hedonism is, I'm just a dessert first. Do I really need to eat my vegetables? Like, let me just go straight to the donut,
Gotcha.
right? And so I keep choosing the fun instead of the substance. I keep
Got you.
choosing the escape hatch instead of sticking with it and seeing it through and developing that self-esteem that comes from accomplishment. So sevens kind of cheat themselves
Mhm.
by skipping out on the hard parts because the hard parts where you really meet yourself and you really
Yes.
learn depth through overcoming challenges, right? And so sevens tend to escape before they get there, and so they're living at a very superficial level, and they're trying to have the fun, but they can't
Sure.
quite get it there. And I've noticed actually that some of our favorite entertainers are the type sevens who committed suicide. So I was
Mm.
thinking of Robin Williams.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
thinking of Anthony Bourdain, right?
Mm.
When you think about like how bubbly and fun and
Yes.
positive
Yes.
they seem, but
Yes.
they're the suicides. And
And
that's
yeah.
because they can't function with the pain that they experience. So
Yeah.
I'm trying, part of what I'm teaching is what do you do with your pain? How do you heal that? You know, it
Absolutely. Yeah.
can be resolved so that you
Yeah.
can be present to whatever's coming, right?
The sevens certainly can learn from developing their levels of resilience, or at least higher levels of resiliency. The examples you gave, of these people has taken their lives. In every single one of them, there was shock and like, oh my gosh, I didn't see this.
Right.
We didn't
Right.
expect this. This is sudden.
Right.
And so,
Because
yeah, I
they're
think
hiding their darkness, right?
yes,
They can't
yeah,
face it at all. Like we never heard about that side of them, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
I was thinking about Twitch. You know who Twitch
yeah,
is? He
yeah. The
was
dancer, the
yeah, he
dancer.
was a suicide also,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
and it's just these bright lights who
Yeah.
kind of you have to find out how to deepen yourself so that you can sustain the light.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Again, that resiliency and that mental toughness, if you will.
Right.
Type number 8, the leader of the
Yep.
bully.
The leader or the bully. So this is an extreme, this is our most intense personality type. They
It
are
sounds like it,
very,
actually. Yeah,
they're really big personalities, and we've all heard of them. Okay. I would say Donald Trump is an 8.
sure.
I think Bethany Frankel is an 8. I think Rosie O'Donnell is an 8. I think a lot of our threshold breakers are 8s because
Yes,
they've got
yes,
huge energy and they feel their own inner strength. They feel
yes.
really powerful. And so they like to get out there and sort of test their own merit, their own muscle. The problem, of course, is that bully side. The
Mm,
in order to be the leader, or what the 8 wants is to be in charge because they're trying to have control over their world. Actually, 8s often have stories of profound violation as young people where they were not allowed to have their autonomy, and they say, never again. Never
yep,
again will anyone
yep.
ever mess with me, you know, and so they make themselves incredibly tough.
Hmm.
They let you know you're going to have a fight on your hands if you want to take that on with me. You know, they're
Right,
kind of
right,
always leading with anger and toughness, kind of threatening with their energy. You don't want to mess with me. You better
right.
just step aside and let me
Yep.
do what I want to do. Right. So they have enormous energy, very strong will, but they can be really controlling and they can force their beliefs on other people. And so for somebody who believes in their own autonomy, they don't like other people to have
Yeah,
autonomy when
yeah.
they're in their right primal persona. So getting
Gotcha.
into the true leader is a heart-based leader where I'm using my platform of power that I have created for myself to help you have a platform of power. I want to empower others, right? I feel strong. I feel like I could lead this movement, but I'm doing it for you, right? Not so that I'm the big shot all the time and I
Yep.
just want to be a star. It's actually a true leader is living in service.
Mm, beautifully put. I love it. And you're absolutely correct. Service of others and how can make their world, their life better, right? And
Right.
looking past yourself. Type number 9. We got to the last one.
The healer or the submissive.
Hmm.
So we all know our 9s and we all love our 9s. They're famously kind. They're the ones who are generous in spirit. They don't hold your bad day against you. They forgive you the mean thing that you said. They're willing to cut you slack. They're just so nice to you, right?
Yep, yep,
Uh,
yep.
the high side is they're called a healer not because they all get medical degrees. That's
Hmm.
not what it
Hmm.
it's that their energy is healing to be around. They are calm, mild, kind, generous. They don't ask much of you. They
Right.
let you just be, and
Yes.
that is so healing to the rest of us, right? To be around people who accept us for who we are, who don't tell us that we need to be different than how we are. They don't
Mm.
tell us how bad and wrong we are. They like us the way we are, and that is incredibly healing. Unfortunately, what happens in the primal persona as the submissive is their desire to live harmoniously with other people turns into a fear of there ever being a conflict. They're incredibly conflict averse. They don't really feel strong within themselves, like they can
Hmm.
assert an opinion. So they are kind of looking for somebody else to be in charge and somebody else
Gotcha.
to make the decisions. And they're
Hmm.
like a go along to get along to, oh, sure. If they say, what do you want to have for dinner? I have for dinner. What movie do
Literally.
you want to see? Oh, pick it, right? They're being accommodating, but it's actually like, hello, is there anybody in there? Do you have a voice? Do you have a perspective? Because you do, right? You didn't come here to be invisible and let everybody else make your choices for you. And so it's learning to trust yourself and to be willing to rise to the occasion as stress happens, as difficulty happens. Nines can often be a head in the sand type and just
Gotcha.
pretend it's not happening or look
Yep.
the other way. And some real bad stuff can go down under their watch with that attitude where they're
Sure.
pretending it's not really going on. So there needs to become a willingness to reckon with what is on their doorstep, to face it, to be the adult, to make the choice, to stand up. That's tough for them, but that's being the true healer, is
Mm.
creating a healthy environment for everyone.
I've yet to see a situation where the ostrich technique work, where you stuck your head in the sand
Right.
and it just doesn't happen. So you've got to excuse me, come out and address whatever you got in front of you. And I think that is the way, really, when you look at the
It's the
overall
way, but
situation.
it's frankly, it's absolutely terrifying to a nine. I
Hmm.
mean, they
Hmm.
break out in a cold sweat
Hmm.
just to, if they know they have to have this conversation that they're dreading.
Yep.
It's really hard for
Yep.
them.
I would imagine. I'd love to get your viewpoint. I'd imagine that and through all nine of the personality types, moving from one to the other side is difficult, challenging, or scary.
It's asking you to step out of the comfort zone. That
Mm.
comfort zone is not that comfortable, frankly, right? I mean, it's
It's
just
an
what you
illusion.
know, it's what you've always done. But being in your primal persona is absolutely bringing negative aspects to your life.
Sure.
You're out of balance. And so you are having that reflected back to you in your life. So
Yeah.
it's comfortable to stay the way you are. It's also not comfortable to change. So
Yeah.
there's it's like, how bad did the negative stuff get until you
Yes.
finally
Yeah.
say, I'm
Yeah.
willing, I'm finally,
Yeah.
I will do it, fine. You
And
know,
that's why it's so important to be able to see this, because if you're in your comfortable state, there's no need to change. Whether it's good or bad or what's
right,
happening to you, you're comfortable, so there's no need to change. But when you take that step back and you have the outside perspective, or someone is able to show you the outside perspective, you're like, oh, I didn't realize. And we've all
right,
gone through it, or we've come to this
absolutely.
realization, someone shine the light on something, like, oh wow, didn't even know, right? So it's bringing that light to our awareness and helping us recognize that where we are isn't necessarily the great place to be.
Absolutely. I think of it as like, as soon as you see it, as somebody points this pattern out and now you can see it, about 50% of it will resolve immediately. As soon as you get it, you're like, oh, well, I don't need to keep doing it that way. And it's easy to shift some of it. And
Yeah,
then the other 50% is in there to the bone.
stuck.
And that you'll be working on for the rest of your life. You're keeping an eye on that.
Got you. Got you. See, it's funny because I certainly wanted to ask about, well, now that you know who you are and what you're about and who, the both sides of your personality type, what's next? Because I would imagine a lot of these things that are happening are on autopilot. It's just kind of just so the unconscious moving through the world, doing what you know by default and not, thinking twice about it. But there is a what's next, right? And what does that look like?
So that is where I
And then also sorry,
created.
and I'll also be curious to find out if it varies between personality types, like what next looks like.
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. So, yes to all of it.
Yes. Okay.
There are a few methods that I've put in the book that I call the real you methods, and
Okay.
these are universal. These are simple techniques. One is for getting out of stress and just calming down your nervous system so that you can feel calm and stable.
Yep.
There is one that helps you learn how to fully process your feelings so that you're not holding them in your body any longer. You can
Okay.
actually move through them. And then I also teach you what's called an integration exercise, where you are starting to, instead of having all these parts of yourself that you like and parts of yourself you don't like, you learn how to love and accept all of it and
Mm.
bring it all in as all of me, right?
Yep.
So those are universal. And then additionally, by type, I do offer some extra exercises as needed for different perspectives, and
Yeah.
trying to have it be an exercise that would feel somewhat comfortable for that type.
Yes, 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 yes. No, no, and I think that's a really important aspect of this. Like it's recognizing. Like, I mean, there's a lot of work. So there's a lot of work to identify these personality types, and through that process, you also uncover there's no cookie cutter model that's going to work for everyone. And so something a bit more personalized or tailored, I think, kind of makes sense.
It is necessary because what comes easily to one type is totally the
Sure.
hard part for somebody else, And so, and because we're wired to care about different things, these different exercises aren't for everyone. So, a great example would be, say, meditation, right?
Yeah.
Most of our types need to learn how to quiet that mind, right? And so, for example, the assertive types are the threes, sevens, and eights.
Yep.
That's the luminary, the uplifter, and the leader. Big energy, big drive, big action, famously don't hold still, famously not introspective, right?
Right.
So they learning how to slow down, hold still, be present is a huge asset. But at type 9, where we were just talking about that healer or the submissive, they're all about inaction. They're all about not taking the action. So they might be meditating all day. You don't tell nines to go meditate, right? They're like,
Right.
cool. So I don't have to take action today. I don't have to like respond to that angry email I got,
Right.
I'll just meditate instead. So, we're giving more actually action to the 9 versus the assertive types who need that calm energy that the 9 has already
I love it.
mastered, right?
No, I love it. I love it. I love it. Candace, you've done a wonderful job of putting this all together, and your book is fabulous. Excuse me. Again, your vitality, personality. Where can our listeners go and actually get a copy of their own book?
At yourvitalitypersonality.com. And they can also take the free quiz there to find out their own.
That would be an interesting. I think it'll be an interesting exercise for a lot of people, right? Like as you're going through this. But also, there's a part of me, and
Are you
I've
there?
gotten.
I lost you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't. There we go. You froze. You're still frozen. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, now we're going. Okay,
Okay,
good.
here about this. Tell us again where you can get the book.
Yourvitalitypersonality.com.
Gotcha. And you also referenced, say, there's a free personality quiz. Yeah.
Right, right. So if you're curious to learn about your type, that's also at yourvitalitypersonality.com.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and again, I've got nothing to base this on, but I think people have a good sense of what their personality type is as they go through this. And maybe it's would be more about learning a bit more about them. I think people have a sense of who they are.
Well, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who say, I've been studying for 10 years and I'm still not sure what type I am. So
Okay, there we go. Okay, fair
it's,
enough.
because we're not so cut and dry. We have a bit of all of these types in us.
Yes, yes.
And they sort of show up when we're in certain spaces in life, which confuses things when you're trying to type yourself.
Got you. Got you. Candace, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for this, and congratulations on the book. Again, super insightful. I think people really walk away with some good insights into themselves and what those next steps can look like as well too. So again, thank you for the time. Great for being here.
Thank you.
Back, we are here on the podcast. In our conversation with Candace, she highlighted the importance of self-awareness and moving from the low side to the high side of our personality spectrum. While our personality type might be fixed, our journey within that type can vary greatly. By embracing self-love and adaptability, we can break free from limiting patterns and unlock our full potential. Feel free to connect with Candace directly. Her contact details are in the show notes. She's certainly eager to help you explore your own vitality, personality, and of course, she's offering a free introductory session on how to discover your Enneagram type, available again through her website. Do remember her book, Your Vitality Personality, is also available, and grab a copy to learn more about you. Thank you for tuning into the Audacious Living podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, follow, subscribe, and share if you haven't already done so, because that helps us grow and continue to bring more inspiring content. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.